I'm not gonna lie, when I first started my dev job, I couldn't even explain what an API was. But now I'm 1 year in, so how did that even happen? I'm gonna tell you how I faked the confidence that I didn't have, why I applied when I felt very underqualified, and how most of what I know now is just things that I learned on the job. So if you're feeling like you're not ready, this is for you. For some background, I'll tell you where I was before I started applying for jobs. So I had self-taught for a little while before I kind of wanted something more concrete to put on my CV to apply for jobs. So I did a bootcamp course, and that was, I think, about 12 or 13 weeks. And in that course, I learned JavaScript and I learned basically how to build an API, which is funny because I told you that I couldn't explain what an API is. I couldn't even explain what an API was, which is true. But anyway, I learned a lot, to be fair. But sometimes when you're learning something on a course, it's not always easy to apply it to real life, which I think is the more difficult thing when you're trying to apply for jobs, because you feel like, okay, I know all of this content the way it was presented to me in this exact context, but when I try and then either answer questions about it or take it out of that context into a different one, you're just like, I don't know what anything means anymore. But at the end of the day, I was in the middle of changing careers and I needed a job because I had been unemployed for about a year. Because I knew I just needed a job now as soon as possible, I just had to apply. It didn't matter how I felt. I mean, I felt like at least I'd got some kind of qualification on paper to be able to show, but that doesn't mean I felt like I was some expert coder now that I had done a course. I obviously had a CV that made me look good. Doesn't mean I was as good as it made me out to be, but I sent that out to different job applications. And then once I started hearing back from them, I had to prepare for all the stages of the interview. I think I just really kind of came across as like a really confident person. Even if I didn't know the answers to all the technical questions, interviewers really notice if you seem like a bright person. So if you're like quite timid and shy and you don't know the technical answers, no one's really going to look at you and think, yeah, this person will be able to do the job. I probably didn't answer all the technical questions on stages of my interview, but the way I came across, I was like confident, I guess. I, made conversation. I seemed like happy, I guess, or, like friendly and I tried to be someone that they would want to hire at the end of the day. I know a lot of people would maybe say they find it hard to be fake and not like be able to kind of take their interview confident self and separate it from how you might actually feel, which is not that confident at all. But that's just something you're gonna have to do if it doesn't come naturally to you. So if you're not a naturally confident person, and you almost have to give yourself a bit of ego, but not like too much, but because interviewers don't like people who think they know everything as well. But you just have to, you probably do know more than you think as well, especially if you're new. A lot of people probably don't feel like they know much, but once you start working in a job, you realize that people at your stage, even people that have been working at your job for years maybe, they don't know that much. So you're probably fine. In essence, me faking confidence got me my job. I tried to be, I guess, charming or, likable. And of course, I prepared for technical questions, which is very important as well, because you need some kind of technical capability to back yourself up, but you do not have to know like much about code. Now, once you have the job, let's say you've made it, you faked it and you made it and you've got the job offer, start on your first day. It's fine. You've probably got a probationary period, so obviously don't just kind of be like, yeah, I didn't know anything, I lied. Which is probably not the case anyway if they hired you, because you still would have had to have some technical capabilities for them to have hired you. But make sure in this period of time, in your first 3 to 6 months, you ask the most stupid questions that you won't be able to ask later on because you'll just look like an idiot. From my personal experience of getting my first job, I've learned that everything you know beforehand is useful as a very basic foundation, but probably 80% of your knowledge comes from working actually on the job. That's where you really learn how to apply really basic things to your code bases that you're working on in work. And most of the difficulty in your job is from understanding their code bases rather than being able to code. You know, you just have Google, you have AI now. Coding is like basically not a thing anymore. It's just more about working out how to solve problems rather than actually like writing code, which is what most people probably think before they start a job. I mean, I thought that. I probably thought I'd be sitting there writing code all the time, and that's just not true. And I think a really big part of being a developer that no one talks about is having soft skills, because that's just gonna get you the most out of your job and learning experience. And most of like working, I mean, not most of it, depends where you work, I guess, but I feel like developers think this is a really suitable for introverts kind of job, but I wouldn't really say so, because there's a lot of collaboration. Even if you're working on your own tickets, there's still a lot of involvement with what the team's working on. You have to communicate with people. And I'd say if you can't do that, then you're going to struggle. So definitely work at that. So if you are not confident and you want a job, you're gonna have to fake it, I'm afraid. And that doesn't mean completely faking it, that just means being confident about your current knowledge. If you have zero knowledge, of course, it's gonna be very, very difficult to fake confidence about things you literally don't know. Obviously, it's a given that you have enough knowledge to be able to start thinking about applying for jobs. But if you're in that position where you're like, oh, am I ready? You're probably ready. Actually, you are ready. You just need to make that little leap. Even if it feels like a massive leap in your head, it's not. So you just do it. I do have a video outlining how I literally went from point A to B of applying for my job and getting it in the end. I go over like my CV and what I put on there. So if you're interested in that detail, then you can see that video. But other than that, I'll see you next time. We'll start. API was